page 12 and page 13 need to be labeled in your table of contents, density/floating golf ball.
Jewels, do your table contents?
Thank you.
Alright, another start. Wait. Alright. So today I'm going to be teaching you about density, and we're going to do a little experiment working with it. So I'm just going to do a quick review, and then we're going to get to our experiment because it takes a good little bit of time to do. Question: are you guys dense? Y'all dense?
Yes, we have.
Do you have a weight? Do you take up space? You're dense. You all have these two properties. You're made up of matter, which means you have a mass, and your mass is your weight. And you all have volume, which means you take up space. You take up space in your desk, you take up space in the hallway. Point is, you take up space. More than you might think, less than you might think. So what does density mean? Anybody tell me? Take a guess. Yes. What else did I just say?
When you take up space when you're
What does it mean?
It means that you have mass and you take up space.
Yeah, well, yeah. What is taking up space called? Starts with V. Volume. And the real definition of density means the measure of the amount of matter that occupies a given amount of space. So your weight that takes up space. Alright? So, I want to ask, my cup of salt here, y'all think it's more dense than my cup of water? Because they're really tightly packed in here. This is a whole bunch of salt, and it's a lot heavier than my cup of water here. It's a lot heavier. And it takes up more room. The more room something takes up and the closer it is together, the more dense it is. Alright? But if it doesn't take up a lot of room, it's not really dense.
Like adding clothes on yourself. Just like putting salt into water.
Alright. I want you guys to kind of remember that when we're doing our experiment today, alright? Think of combining things when you're packing stuff in. Alright, I'm going to pick two people from your group. Do we know what I'm doing? Yeah? I'm just messing with it. Alright, I'm going to take two people from your group to go get all the supplies off the back. While your teammates are going to get supplies, on page 12, I want you to write down the list of materials you are going to use. Alright? Haley O'Malley, Abby and Dylan, Becca and Joelle, Ty and Martin. Get all your stuff. And you will need a clear container filled halfway with water, which is this right here. You will need a golf ball, a Dixie cup with salt, a Dixie cup with water, a plastic spoon, and I have the food coloring up here because Miss Cindy and I will be passing that around when we get to that stage. You do not need one of those.
No, I already got the water. I already got the cup. Okay, yeah. I got material. We have everything. She has
Oh, yeah. No, you get really small salt, so you can't tell.
The food coloring will come at the last step. Now, I want to say something before we get started. I will pull up a list of procedures for you to follow, a few at a time. I do not want you to go ahead. A group in the last class went too far ahead and they messed up their whole experiment. Alright, so I need you guys to just follow along as we go. And please make sure you write down that your Dixie cup of salt has 6 tablespoons of salt in it. That might be important to know. don't get this list down, just look at your desk. All your materials are on your desk, alright? We gotta move on. Alright, so you're on page 12 already, and you're already writing down your list of materials. I want you to make a prediction about what you think will happen when you put the golf ball in your saltwater mixture. You can just write a sentence, 2, keep it short.
So, we're gonna add the salt to the water.
You are gonna add salt to the water.
And then you're gonna say,
See what happens to the golf ball.
what do you mean?
Don't do it yet, don't add any salt yet. I want you to just make a prediction. What do you think is gonna happen? Things gonna float, things gonna sink, things gonna turn orange. I wanna know what you think is gonna happen to that golf ball.
You told me that doesn't happen.
I don't know. That's why we do experiments. Yes, Abby?
What color is the food
We'll get to that. It doesn't matter what color your food coloring is, if you're just doing a random one, but we'll talk to it when we get to that step, okay? Remember what I said, don't get too far ahead of yourself. Alright, Natalie, what do you think's gonna happen to that golf ball?
I think that the golf ball will sink because it will be denser than the salt water.
What do you think's gonna happen, O'Malley?
I think it might float because it's less dense.
What do you think's gonna happen, Carson?
I think it'll float because the salt water is denser.
Anybody got anything different between sinking or floating? Abby, what do you think's gonna happen to the golf ball?
It'll turn color like the color of the food.
So Abby thinks the golf ball is going to turn the color of the food coloring. And float. That's a good prediction. Alright. Here's your procedure. Alright. I want you, everybody in your section to have a turn. Alright, you're going to at least do one thing. I want you to add a little bit of salt at a time to this. To the big container. You do not have to write down your procedure. You don't have to use the spoon, you can just pour from the cup too. The spoon is to stir. And I want you to stir frequently. You need to get all your salt to dissolve. Before you get too into this, I need you to listen. I want you to add salt until no more dissolves. If you've got salt sitting on the bottom, you probably have a good bit of salt.
This is all 6
That's all 6 tablespoons if you want to add it. And then I want you to drop your golf ball into the salt mixture. And tell me what happens. You can add as much as you want. You're supposed to add until no more dissolves. Keep stirring. And here's a hint. If the ball sinks, you may need to add some more salt.
We added the whole thing.
I want to taste it now.
Should we add it? But like, there's still some sitting on the bottom.
Just keep stirring. It'll dissolve as you go. I'm gonna give you a hint. It will probably take a lot of stirring before you put the golf ball in to get the salt to dissolve. Use the spoon to pull it out. You need to keep stirring until you've got most of that salt gone.
I heard you should never drink it.
You should not drink salt water. That's correctly. I would add a lot more salt to that mixture.
Like, sandwiches, but with two. Don't.
In here.
Hey, then.
Make sure the stuff on the bottom.
There was a class, the last class, they had a ball they couldn't get to float. But they realized they weren't stirring it enough. And then once we started really good, their ball floated.
Yeah, you should start good.
Keep stirring until you're not seeing a whole lot of salt anymore.
Keep going.
Wow.
How much salt have y'all added?
You dropped the old
Alright, see, look, I've already got my golf ball to float, and that's because I sat here and stirred in my salt really well. There's just a little bit of salt sitting on the bottom of mine. There's still a little bit of salt on the bottom because I said it can take it until no more is dissolving, so there should just be a little bit on the bottom of your cup. That works because it's not sinking to the bottom. Alright, I've got a group one right here, and they've already got theirs closed.
Wait, is that all?
Did y'all add the whole thing? Oh, look, I got group number 2 right here. They've got theirs floating. You gotta stir real good. Yep, see, I told you it's all about stirring again. That salt in there. You can think of it like this. You're packing your salt into the water until it just can't take any more. It's like when you go to a fast food restaurant, you just eat until you can't eat anymore. You're packing all that salt in. So you're making it kind of like a brick wall. That's what I want you to think of. Alright. Alright. So now, if your ball is sitting on top of this, why do you think it's floating? O'Malley. If you're listening, you're going to hear O'Malley's answer. So you think the golf ball's lighter than the water?
The water and the salt together.
Yeah. There you go. But what do you think is going to happen in a minute if we add fresh water on top? You all think the ball's going to sink?
So there's got to have salt in it. It looks so big.
I would think about that for a second.
Not yet.
There you go. Look. Alright, don't stir it. Look, see? Alright. Joe, use all your salt. Stop stirring. Okay. Y'all's work, since it's not hitting the bottom.
That's weird.
Don't hit the bottom.
Floating around.
I will add a little bit more salt to their mixture to help it float just a little bit more.
Oh, there she is. She's like, Aren't you thinking? Did y'all put all the stuff?
Abby.
Abby. You got it. It comes. Oh.
Nope. Wait.